Welcome, welcome.
We're all so glad you're here.
Good morning, everyone.
It is so nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us. I think we should get started because we only have an hour and we want to make sure that we get everything. So, hello and welcome to ProCon 2021. This is the first session for our inclusion peer community and we're so glad you're here. My name is Mackenzie Adams and I'm the Assistant Director of the Sheva Center at JCC Association. I'm an Asian woman with brown hair and brown eyes, and today I'm wearing a black patterned sweater and glasses. I'm joining you from Los Angeles, California, acknowledging in gratitude the traditional stewards of this land, the Gabrielino Tongva, the Kizh, the Chumash, and the many indigenous peoples who made their homes in and around what is now called Los Angeles. I'm so honored to be here with you today, and I thank you for making the time to attend this important session. I'm joined by my incredible colleagues from the Inclusion Working Group at JCC Association, and you see them spotlit on your screens right now. Our leader, Mark Horowitz, Sarah Sless, Kathy Pomer, and Janine Acevedo, who was unable to join for this session, but she's here with us always. At JCC Association in all settings, even virtual, we want you to feel at home here, to join, to participate, to add your thoughts and bring your strength to our community. We look forward to this professional conference being a launching point to an ongoing learning community for inclusion professionals at JCCs across the continent. At JCC Association, we too are on the journey to more inclusive practice. We are not the experts, but we do understand the importance of this work and commit to working internally and partnering with all of you as we move forward. At this point, we will put the JCC Association inclusion statement into the chat. There we go. And we ask that you let any of us know how we can help you truly feel a sense of belonging here. We invite you to rename yourself in Zoom with your name, agency, and personal pronouns. And also, we'd like to let you know that the session is being recorded for our archive. We understand that some people do not wish to be recorded, and if that's the case, please feel free to turn off your camera, though we encourage everyone who is comfortable to stay visible so we can feel as if we're all together in the same place. We have closed captioning available to all, and it should be active on your screen right now. But if you'd rather remove it, please click on the button called Live Transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're thrilled to offer this conference at no cost to our JCCs, which is made possible because of our ProCon sponsors. Each sponsor believes in the JCC movement and the incredible work JCCs accomplish day in and day out. Their representatives are proud to be with us and share their expertise and offerings. We hope you will join us in showing appreciation for their support by visiting their virtual vendor booths in the hall next week. We also encourage you to connect with them anytime during ProCon 2021 and beyond. During the conference, you can use the chat feature to connect with them on our platform called SpotMe. And after the conference, you can reach out to them using their contact information as listed. I apologize for this very long introduction, but it's all important. And without further delay, it's my honor to introduce the speakers for this session. Liv Mendelson, Director of Accessibility and Inclusion at the Miles Nadal JCC. Betsy Lynch, CEO of the Lawrence Family JCC in San Diego. Todd Rockoff, President and CEO of the Tucson JCC, and Scott Ehrlich, CEO of the David Posnack JCC in Davie, Florida. You can find their full bios on the SpotMe platform after this session. And we can't wait to hear from this incredible panel today on the topic of doing well by doing good, the business case for inclusion. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and remove my spotlight and bring our panelists on. And Liv, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Before we get started, I just want to say, as someone on the ground working here at the Miles Nadal JCC in Toronto, I've had so much wonderful support from the Inclusion Working Group at the JCCA. They are absolutely amazing, and don't hesitate to reach out to them. I think we're all going to be in better touch in the coming weeks and months. But they're absolutely fantastic, and so much passion and commitment. And it really does make you proud to be part of the movement. So thanks to them. And now I get to chat with three of my favorite CEOs. And One of the reasons we wanted to do this session, this pre-session session, is that we have been aware that over the course of the pandemic, many JCCs have had to cut staff and program offerings that are designed for people with disabilities or with inclusion in mind. And we've also, at the same time, as people are starting to reopen, rebuild, renew, have heard from a lot of JCCs that want to either deepen this work or get started in this work. So we wanted to look at both some great case studies of how this work is happening, but also how these brilliant CEOs have made it work for them. So before we get into some questions, I just want to give each of you an opportunity to share the model, because every JCC is different and every community is different, the model that's worked for you that you've developed. And then we're going to jump into some questions and we'll have a lively Q&A as well. So I'm going to start with Scott. Scott, can you tell us about what you've innovated in Florida? It's really incredible. Oh, you're muted, Scott.
You are correct. I was muted. Thanks, Liv. So our model lays out like this. First of all, our board of directors and our staff are totally embrace the inclusion, here at our center. We have a camp model. During the summer, we have 165 kids in camp. We have a Broward County school teacher that runs this for the last 30 years. It is an incredible thing that they're part of the regular camp, have their own building, really, part of the 800 kids that are here using everything, and the camp model is just really a success for us. We have an after-school model where we have a 10-month employee that runs an after-school model with cooking and karate and about 15 to 20 different after-school type things, which are usually sold out at the center. We have our board members that are involved as volunteers helping in there. Our first president of the center does karate and yoga every Tuesday with them. So that's another part of our model. Recently, we had something called Give Connect because of COVID. So we have an online model now. We built a television production studio that we're using, and our Give director created a new person called Miss Bubby, who comes on, and she does this great thing, and her name is Debbie Lombard. So I don't know if Debbie's on, but she's incredible. So sometimes she comes on as Miss Debbie and sometimes she comes on as Miss Bubby. And the kids will say, Miss Debbie, where's Miss Bubby today? Or vice versa. So we have that model as well. And then in the fall, we're starting a brand new adult day program. We had 60 inquiries so far. We're looking to have about 12 adults come. It'll be a paid model of about $25,000 for 10 months. We do have scholarship money available. So that's the last piece of that model. And I do want to mention our marketing team and our philanthropy team play a huge part of our model. Raising money, our philanthropy team probably spends 25% of their time working in this area to raise dollars. And our marketing team spends a ton of time branding and making sure our brand is out in the community so people recognize who we are. And, we're known in the community. So our marketing team does a fabulous job there.
All right, and we're going to talk a little bit more because I know everyone wants to know how you pay for it. And all of these models also don't just break even, but really support the bottom line of the J. So we're gonna dig into those details once we get a sense of the breadth of the work from these three fabulous JCCs. Todd, you're already unmuted, so I'm going to go to you next.
That's just so I didn't forget.
Tell us about things in Tucson.
So our model is and has always been an evolving model. It began with a deep commitment to inclusion in our summer day camp. And as those children who came to our day camp began to get older, there was a recognition that there was a gap and that there wasn't any programming that would keep them engaged in community. And we began a program that we call Taglit, which is an adult day program. It runs 5 days a week, all day long, and it began literally with 1 and then 2 participants. And now we have 44 participants in the program each and every day. And we like to think of it as a distinct program within an inclusive environment. So very much our Taglit program pre-COVID was very much integrated with everything that was happening at the JCC throughout the day. And it really helped our entire community to work with and feel and embrace people with disabilities as they were here as a part of everyday life. There are 2 tracks in the program, one which is more focused on vocational development and one that is more focused on socialization. As that program grew, we realized that there was room for more. And we were able to, through a community grant, expand our program to a teen social club, expand our program to a fully inclusive cheerleading team. And now we are working towards an integration where we will absorb another nonprofit working in this space into our program at the J. I think the key for us has always been not just our profound commitment to the work, but also our ability to listen to and react with our community and to recognize that nothing happens alone and it all happens in partnership.
Amazing. Absolutely. And I'm going to turn it over to Betsy in San Diego.
Thank you, Liv, and thank you for inviting us to be a part of this conversation today. Our program in San Diego is a little over 25 years old. And like Todd has described, clearly the work with people with disabilities has evolved significantly in the 25 years. But our goals the entire time was never to have a distinct program for people with disabilities, but trying to create an infrastructure of support for people with disabilities to be successfully included in the programming that already exists with the JCC. So to that end, we have served, I would say, over, the exact number is probably about 162 children. So between our preschool program and our camp program, over the course of a year, it's about 162 children that we serve with either direct support, meaning one-on-one support for them to successfully be included in our educational and recreational environments, and or if it's peripheral support for additional services and things that they need to be successfully included in the work that we do. This has mostly come from both a combination of people paying a fee for service and being subsidized by grant funding in order to allow the program to grow. We have an infrastructure and a director of this work, and we've spent a lot of time thinking over the last 5 years about how our culture of inclusion, both within our educational and recreational spaces, needed to go beyond where it had been. And so this has now been really an intentional thought process in our employment within the JCC. We actually proudly, as I mentioned, we've been doing this for 25 years, hired one of the people who were our original preschool students in our program 25 years ago is now a staff person at the JCC. And we're working to specifically include people with disabilities and the successful piece of that in our employment services. The next piece that we're working on, which is an opportunity that's come from the pandemic, we have a food service, like a small coffee shop and cafe here at the JCC that we are now going to be partnering with an organization to do inclusive job training and vocation training through our coffee shop to employ the next level of engagement in community, and also job skills that are available through only hiring people with disabilities with some support with obviously neurotypical management and other support teams and job coaches they might need. So our goal really is to have people with disabilities be included specifically in our work. However, I do think it's important to note that when we aren't successful because either the disabilities are involved and complicated in a way that our services can't totally accommodate, we act as a bridge between what we do to other services throughout the community. And that has been a critical piece in knowing that even if you can't be in our preschool 5 days a week, that your space in the JCC is always here and available, but we want to make sure that every child has what they need to be successful.
Wonderful. So lots of different models. I'll just quickly share that our model in Toronto is kind of a hybrid. So we've also worked to make our JCC accessible, an accessible environment. And the goal is that anybody can come to any program with the right supports. So we renovated our pool to make it accessible, our theater and our stage, so you can be on the stage and not just in the audience. Lots of environmental changes and lots of staff training so that people can be received with open arms, whatever they're bringing in. But like all of these, like Scott and Todd's programs specifically, we did a community needs assessment, and we discovered that after young adults age out of school-based programs, there really is nothing for them. So for that 18 to 35 group that we're really focused on, we have lots and lots of programming, which they guide and direct. They have a committee and they tell us what to do and we do it. But I think we see that like Todd described as really a gateway. The goal is not that people stay only within programs that are designed for people with intellectual disabilities, but that they also do other activities. So maybe you're in the choir, and maybe you're swimming, and maybe you do a spin class, whatever it is that you want to do, that you have that capacity, but that you also have that home base that keeps you comfortable, and staff who know you, and a place to go when you need support. So I'm going to ask everybody to unmute. Dangerous, I know, but I'm going to do it because I want to move to a more natural conversation as we jump into some of the things I want to know. So I'm going to start with impact, because I think that's really what drives all of us, and I know drives the three of you. But I'm going to ask about impact in two ways, or three ways even. What's the impact on your balance sheet? What's the impact on the individuals you support and your community? And what's the impact on your staff?
So I guess I'll start. The impact on my balance sheet, which is, not number one for us, but it's really important, is, we want to be able to raise money to support all the programs, support anybody in need. But we actually make money on special needs, for our Giverine program, for camp, and for after school, and probably for our adult program as well. We could net between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. And that's with a lot of philanthropic support as well. But there's no reason not to have that, hit your bottom line. A lot of CEOs may tell you, we know it could be a lost program, but, in my view, if you're selling your brand out in the community correctly and people see the impact you're making, I like to show some videos. We like to take videos of the kids and share it with some of our donors. Anybody who wants to volunteer to do that, that's been very impactful. We have our donors come in and participate in some classes. That also creates the impact and has that donor get to meet the kids, and their donations seem to go up. So that's a really positive thing. But again, from a financial standpoint, please don't be afraid of actually showing a bottom line to your CEO. You can do it, and with making that impact that's necessary for all the kids and adults involved, and the impact that you'll make on your board members that get involved, your donors that will get involved. There's multiple ways to make impact and multiple people to support this program.
I would just jump in and say our goals around, I'm going to start with the impact on our community and on the people that are involved in the program. What I say to our staff and to the team that specifically is working directly with people with disabilities is that we need to be a yes. Like so much of the world to people with disabilities and their families, it's like what they can't do all of the time. And we want to be the yes. So let's start with the yes and then figure out the parameters for success. But let's begin with the exploration of what we can do rather than focusing on what we can't. We've seen tremendous success from doing that, both from a philanthropic standpoint, not just an impact, but actually in saying like, we want to be a yes for the community. We know that there are things that are important and available. And that speaks to people in a way that if they've had personal interest in having somebody in their life with disabilities, then they get that in the biggest way. And even if they don't, they can actually imagine that. So it helps to really frame what we mean from creating a culture of inclusion. And because of that culture of inclusion, where we're really saying everyone belongs here and we just have to find a way to make that happen, it matches then with our culture of philanthropy, which is how do we recognize, how do we appreciate everything that everyone is giving to our community. And some of that is financial, but more often than not, what that is about their volunteering and about them being a part of the lives with children with disabilities and actually neurotypical children, and all of the work that the JCC does and how our community has changed because of that. I share so much that when we include children with disabilities, the benefit is not just to the family with a child with disabilities. It's the benefit to the children who are neurotypical that have the experience of being with them and understanding how we all are different and special and unique in our own way. And that's the kind of conversation that we have with our families globally around what our inclusive services are about. From a financial perspective, we are at worst a break even for our inclusion services every year. More often than not, because of philanthropic contribution, we do better than that. But our goal is to maintain the break even piece of this. But what that means is that we have to either raise more money or make sure that our fees are solid in what we're doing so that we can support the growth that we want year after year after year, knowing that, as Scott mentioned, that once you have a reputation of being the yes in the community, that the doors are open and you're there and available, people seek you out. And that's something that we're most proud of.
I would, without repeating a whole lot, what I would add is that it provides us the opportunity to demonstrate consistently who we are and not what we do. And who we are is a place that is for all people of all ages. This is our Sinai moment. We bring everyone together in one place to be a community. And yes, from the bottom line perspective, our program makes a positive contribution of about $200,000 a year. And it does that because the model is mostly reimbursement through the state. And there are a few individuals who are paying privately. And then when that works and when the importance to the community is demonstrated, we made a decision to, post-COVID, move the program offsite to a Reform congregation that's about a quarter mile from here. That cost us an additional $9,000 a month. And we were willing to put that money at risk because maintaining the program versus eliminating the program wasn't even an option. And throughout the last 10 months, each month, that rent has been covered by philanthropy because everyone understood the importance of maintaining and growing the program back, even when after the pandemic, when we opened during the pandemic, I should say, we started with many fewer children and many fewer young adults. We've grown it back to the level because we've been able to invest emotional, financially, and in every other way, because who we are is building a community and all people need to be a part of that community.
You said it, Scott. Todd, I love that so much. I think it really makes me think about the staff element too, because I think I've noticed for us, staff, even staff who don't directly work in programs designed for people with disabilities, but interact more and more in the center with people with disabilities, it really has deepened their commitment to being part of the J. It really has made them feel that the work that they do is valuable and important and Jewish work, deeply Jewish work, even for staff who are not Jewish, that universal value set. So I want to talk a little bit about staff and how your staff became invested, how you trained them, what needs to happen with staff to make the kind of community vision Todd is talking about a reality.
So I'll jump in on that. We have an approach, and I use actually the same approach for Jewish education that I do for inclusion, which is while we do specifically have a director of inclusion in our JCC, The work of inclusion is only stewarded and the infrastructure is stewarded by Wendy Smith, who is a gem, a superstar, and an inspiration. But Wendy is one person, and our goal is not just like the Jewish piece of the JCC. We don't have a director of Jewish life and learning because I think that everyone at the JCC should be a Jewish educator. I feel like the same way with inclusion. I feel like every single person needs to embrace our responsibility to include everyone and needs to have the tools and the education to do that. So we spend a significant amount of time, particularly with the groups, very deeply with the groups that are performing this work every single day. And those that are a little more peripheral to the experience, meaning they're seeing people in the hallway and greeting people and working with people, they also receive education so that they can embrace our yes first philosophy. And I think the critical piece in this is ongoing training and that thought process, and then sort of layering how that training works so that the people that receive it with the most depth are the people that are hands-on doing this work, and the people that in the outer rings aren't left exempt from it, but knowing they're all a part of it. And because it is such a Jewish concept, you know, the true root of B'Tselem Elohim, which is seeing the dignity in every single person, this is at the core and at the value of who we are as an organization. So this training begins at their onboarding when we hire someone new and continues throughout their lifetime of their career here at the J. And I think it's been a beautiful piece of what we've seen. I'll give a very small example of when we created learning pods during the pandemic to help working families who needed actually to return physically to work, but their children were had to do Zoom school. And so we had about 180 children, 30 of which were children with disabilities that were here in our program. And it has been incredible for us. Normally we get to see those older school age kids only during the summer. And because we got to spend the year with them, the depth of the relationship, the learning that our staff had when they actually returned to school, like some of our staff were teary-eyed at the idea of missing them. And I think that's the impact of being able to see the inspiration of what the relationships that have been built and the things that we've done is what motivates the staff to want to continue and to expand upon this work.
So I'll add to what Betsy said and agree. It is part of our onboarding process. Our first day training features work about language and defines who we are for everyone who is joining the team, regardless of what particular area they may be joining, because we are an inclusive environment. I think it also is important that the leader of the program not only leads the program effectively, which Emily Mallon, who is our director, does a magnificent job, but she is part of everything that we do at the J and part of all of our working groups. So it can't be one area is isolated and the other is integrated. The entire ecosystem needs to be integrated. And I'll say for us sitting as CEOs, we also need to be willing to listen and to learn and to evolve along the way, because this is a team approach to building a community and to having us all be part of the same level of understanding and the same aspiration for what we are doing. And I find that the team embraces that and is willing to learn and wants that to be the environment that we live in.
Yeah, so obviously, I also think hiring is extremely important. Right now, you know, our camp's been going on for 30 years. We actually have a waiting list for counselors to work in our Camp Gibborim, which is amazing. The other parts of the camp, we're still looking to hire people. In that camp, we have too many. But I want to add this one piece is I think the committees are also really important when it comes to working with our staff. We have an adult committee. We have a camp committee as part of that. We have our after school committee. And, you know, that way our board gets very involved as well. There's a lot of great people that are retired or have worked in the field before that are working with our staff members to, you know, increase the education that we're able to give to our entire staff. You know, we work with University of Miami and Nova Southeastern University on some training, but really, the culture of the center is about training, is about getting everybody involved. But the committees and the staff working together make it that much more special.
So I'm going to ask it. I'm going to tell everyone, you can start putting questions in the chat. I'm going to ask these guys, I'm going to put you on the spot, because what we've heard a lot from the field is that people are in the position of either starting something, proposing something, or reopening and renewing something that maybe had been on pause. So, if you had to make a pitch to yourself or to your board as a CEO, what would you say? What do people need to be thinking about in terms of presenting this work and proposing this work and really highlighting the importance and the potential transformative nature of this work? So Betsy, you're smiling. I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you in the hot seat.
No problem. So actually, the person you should be asking this question to is Wendy Smith, who's on this call, 'cause she knows what it's like to pitch these ideas to me. So the truth be told is that we're probably not the best people to ask this question to, Liv. And here's the reason why. You don't need to pitch anything to me, because I'm actually the one that's coming up with the ideas of how we further this process. The person that came up with the idea of how to use people with disabilities as a vocation training program at our Bean was me, because we were actually losing money in the Bean. And so I thought to myself, if I'm going to lose money doing something, I'd rather get a return on my mission for the work that we're doing rather than having food service that loses money. So I think it takes something of a partnership of looking for the opportunities for where this piece of goal of impact and importance of why the inclusion of all people matters, and finding the places where it naturally fits in with our work, where it's not a stretch, where it's not a huge goal, and I always like to start with, when anyone shows up to me and says, oh, this is a pilot program or it's an experiment, that always makes me feel good as a CEO, which is to know we may lose money doing this. We may make a mistake and it might not work, but if it's built on a foundation of things that we've learned and that we know, it's worth exploring and it's worth trying, when it means that we can serve a broader swath and deepen our engagement with people that really need our help. And I think that, to me, we want, and the goal is, as Todd mentioned earlier, is to invite anyone into the process. So for me, I think I would just need to understand is, are we working from some sort of best practice of what we know that works, and where's the opportunity that lies ahead from this, and how are we thinking that through? And if the steps seem logical, there's certainly a level of trust that I have in our team that they're coming from the best place possible, and we're going to try to make it work, but that there is an evaluative piece of this so that we can make sure that it is having the impact that we want to. And once we can see that it does, I have confidence that anything of this work, it's so important, can be funded. And I'm going to say that again because you need to hear it. People believe in this. And it's so easy to have conversations. Scott mentioned it like 5 times, to have conversations with donors. There's nothing that they feel more proud about than having this type of impact. So we should experiment and we should try, and just know not everything is going to work, and that is okay. But we have to build trust in order to be able to make those things work, which needs experimentation. So that's my thought.
So now everyone wants to work for you in San Diego.
You're
And now
welcome.
we're going to
Wendy
make,
would like to have a whole team. Wouldn't that be great?
Wendy is amazing. Now we're going to make everyone want to work for Scott. Scott,
Yeah.
how do you, no one wants to use the language of selling this, but really when you're talking, if you're having the idea and you're taking it to the board or to the, what is it that you need to say? And what considerations go into it for you as the CEO?
So Betsy, I'll say it again, donors. They're easy to get. We have a great case, but I'll just say this. It's an underserved population. We all know it, that's on this call, definitely underserved. And the JCC is the best place to provide the service. I don't know everybody's facilities, but most of us are pretty similar in a way, between fitness and the pools and all the things that we have to offer in the space that we have. There's a reason that we run these programs. I mean, we have a lot of space here. Some people don't have a lot of space, but the fact is the JCC is the best place for this population to come because of all the facilities we have. We know it's underserved. We know we have donor support on this. So the bottom line is, again, we're the best place for it. Your board should be so on board with it. I mean, I know there's some incredible professionals on this call. And you just put one of those incredible professionals in front of the board and start telling some of the stories that they have written. And you know, our board starts crying every time we tell some of our summer camp stories. I mean, tears are coming down their eyes. We know it's underserved. We know we have the space to handle it. And donors are, how can they can't write us checks fast enough. Just real quick, a donor said to, you know, a money manager that was living somewhere close to the J knows about our program, and had somebody from Pennsylvania that he said, you know, he goes, I have to give away some of my money. He goes, where should I give it? She goes, well, I know this place, the JCC down the street has an incredible program for those with developmental disabilities. Maybe you can help them. He called me the next day and sent me a check for $100,000. He's never been here before. Okay, the brand was created. We know it's underserved, all the things that we talked about. The donor part, I think, is the easy part. The creation of the program, getting people to collaborate on it, getting your board to say, this is what we need to do, is a little bit of work, but it's not too hard.
Can I just jump in really quickly? Because I think Scott highlighted so many points about why the J, and I'd just like to add one more, because there's nothing more deeply Jewish than doing this. It's not even like an option not to. If we're really fulfilling our mission of being a Jewish organization, this is a have to. This is a commandment. This is a mitzvah. This is something we are obligated to do. And I think Scott's embrace of having the infrastructure to be able to do it is the cherry on top of the sundae. But the reality is we have a responsibility to do this in some way as a Jewish organization if we want the JCC to be a place for everyone.
And what I was going to say is that case or that pitch starts with the why. And really the title of this session of doing well by doing good starts with the doing good. And then we're going to figure out together the financial model to make sure that we can do well. And that may be some state funding, that may be some grant funding, that may be some donor funding, and it may be some participant funding. But the case has to start with, this is the right thing to do. And we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror, and we have to look at our mission and say, if we turn down this work, we can't look at ourselves in the mirror and we can't look at our mission.
Yeah, I think that says it all. If we're not doing this work, we are leaving people out, and we are not the rich, diverse, full communities that we could be. But we are preaching to the choir, because I know we have wonderful people on this call who really are wanting to grow or expand or start up. So a reminder that your JCCA working group team is here for you. Everybody on this call is here for you. We've all put ourselves out there. If you have ideas, if you're trying to put together a way that this can work, we are all here to support you. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Mackenzie, I of course have more questions because I could talk all day, but I want to open it up to everybody on the call, and I'm just going to turn it to Mackenzie for the best way to make that happen.
Yes, feel free. Please use the chat to type in questions. I'm happy to read them out loud, or we can also use the virtual hand raising, and your name will jump up to the top of the participants list if you just click that button. So please feel free, let us know your questions. And thank you all so much for the session so far. It's just incredible the work you do and the structures that you have in place at your JCCs to make this happen.
I mean, while people are formulating their questions, I know one thing, I wanted to ask each of you is what kind of impact this work has had personally on you as a human being, but also on you as a CEO and as someone responsible for the community in a lot of ways.
I'll say for me, I'll start this time. It is so profoundly gratifying. And it gives me such a sense of pride knowing that we're in this work and getting to know the people in our program. And as I said, we've had to relocate our program, although not far away off-site. And as summer is beginning and swimming is starting and our participants are coming back to the J for swimming and other programs, I'm filled with emotion and admiration as to the strength and the connection that they have with the institution, they have with each other, and to an extent, certainly with me. This is amongst the most important things that we do each and every day. And the impact, the strength that we get out of interacting with the children in camp, the adults in our program, watching our cheer team have success at competitions against neurotypical teams is just remarkable. And there really aren't words to put to what the meaning is of this work.
I'll share a quick story that as I mentioned, we successfully include many children with disabilities in our learning pods during the course of the pandemic. And the J is really quiet, minus our preschool and the learning pods. All of our fitness stuff is happening outside. So we have a young man who is nonverbal and can really only attend, and he's really active and can really only attend Zoom school for about like 10 minutes of his whole day. So he and his partner spend a lot of time walking through and exploring the JCC. And so he and I have regular interaction because of his movements throughout the J. And I've tried through the months and the months of being here to really try to get him to engage with me. And finally, I would say it was probably 3 months ago, he and I were really able to connect and almost have his version of what a conversation would be. And I will tell you, I've done a lot of things in my career. And in that moment, in that time, I've never felt more proud of myself for figuring out how to be able to engage with him in a way that worked for him, so that he literally came and he touched me and he hugged me. And first of all, I hadn't touched or hugged anyone other than my family in all of that time. And when I tell you, when I walked back into my office and you can imagine I was bawling, crying and whatever, like that moment, as big as any donation that I've ever gotten and any work that I've ever done and all the things, that was more important to me than anything that I've done in my entire career.
So really quick, I started 30 years ago as a Special Olympics tennis coach, and that's where I began my passion. But now 30 years later, sitting in my seat, I can't wait to create new things to at the center with my colleagues. We just created a new TV production studio that they can't wait to use over the summer. Todd and Betsy and I, we were working and live on the Access Games. We were gonna host the first Access Games in San Diego.
Still gonna happen.
Which it's gonna happen at some point. So, that creation, I feel great about continually creating new things. We built a splash pad that was designed for kids with developmental disabilities. So there's always something that keeps me motivated to create new things and keep the dial moving forward.
So Mackenzie, I know you're getting some questions directly to you, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Yes, thank you. So the first is, are these Medicaid waiver programs, family support services, fee for service, or a combination of all of those? That's coming from Amara from JCC in Midwestchester, New York.
Yes. So for our program, the vast majority of participants in our adult day program, which is for young adults post-high school to age 39, we are paid by the state through the Division of Developmental Disabilities. There are a couple of our participants that are user pay, and their family pays privately for a number of reasons. Within our summer camp program and our early childhood program, it is a combination of reimbursement and user pay. So it's a little bit of everything, and that does take some research. And while we think this work is incredibly gratifying, it does take a willingness and a persistence to get on the path of figuring out how those programs are funded in your state. And it would be wrong for me to say that in Arizona we do this, therefore they do it that way everywhere. It is going to be on a state-by-state basis. So you're going to need to dive into that aspect of it.
Our program is a fee for service through the participant, and we provide financial assistance and subsidy to offset the program costs, so that it's a standardized. If somebody requires having one-on-one support or even one to two support. The family is charged the same amount for the program as a neurotypical participant, and we subsidize the staffing model through philanthropy.
Yeah, and we have the same thing as Betsy does. So we'll do a fee for service this year. It's a new program. Last year, we did have Medicaid waiver. And through COVID, they moved out and found a new building to go to. So we'll do a fee for service program supported by philanthropy and other ways to raise some dollars through some private foundations. It's all philanthropy, but we think we're in a good position for that.
The same is true at our JCC. I would say our entire adult rehabilitation program is funded through the Division of Developmental Disability Medicaid in fee for service. I would also say about 90% of our children who attend our programs and our summer camp receive support through the Division of Children and Family Services. The big caveat with all of this, while it's from a revenue standpoint can be a very good thing, is that it's all of those other compliance issues that you have to deal with through the state and through Medicaid that really keep you on your toes. But going into that system has made a tremendous positive impact on our department here at the J.
Shelley, thank you for bringing that up, because I do think that's a really important piece that I'm not sure that Scott, Todd, or I or Liv touched upon, which is what is the staffing infrastructure that you need to have in order for this to be successful? Because it is more than just a really passionate leader that does the education of your whole team. There does need to be administrative infrastructure and people that can navigate complicated systems of support, because even though our program isn't funded through the government, we work a lot with governmental services so that when we're attaching families to all of the services that are available for them beyond the JCC, that is our responsibility to be that bridge. It's complicated, and somebody really does have to deeply educate themselves of how to navigate those systems. So just be aware that that is an absolute necessity to have success in doing this.
Yeah, and I'll just add that you should be reaching out to your local government officials to come in and give them a tour of your program to make sure they understand what you're doing. You can write whatever you want and send them an email and tell them what you're doing. Until they physically come to your center and see what's happening, they just don't have a concept of it. So please reach out to your local government officials to get them in.
And the comment that Allison had put in the chat about how important the administrative work, the billing work, all of that. I mean, we can talk at this level about what we do and what we appreciate, but there's a lot of hard work to make the engine work.
Amazing. And the next chat question is very important. How do you make sure your programs are driven by community and people with disabilities themselves?
Who wants to go first? I will say nothing about us without us is embedded in everything we do, and should be not just in relation to disability, but in general. And so we have committees that guide our programming that are all made up of people with lived experience. So for us, when I say they tell us what to do and we do it, I'm not even joking. It's really true. And it's invaluable in making sure that what we are offering is actually what people want and need, and that they are contributing and not just sort of the focus of our efforts, but really contributing to the design and designing programming with us. Anyone on our panel want to take this one as well?
Sure, I'll jump in and just say that because we have 25 years plus history of doing this work, families, adults, people that are in support, as well as the people with disabilities themselves, have a consistent feedback loop through our committee structure, as well as through individual conversations and support that they get through Wendy, to really learn and understand what are the evolving needs of the community and how do we need to evolve what we're doing to better serve their needs. This whole piece around vocation and employment and whatever, and taking us to that next level came from the needs that and feedback from the community, sort of fulfilling that next step in engagement within our JCC community.
And I also say collaboration is really important. Work with your local Special Olympics. They're always willing to jump in and help you. Your Jewish Family Services, if you have one in your area, they're collaborating with us to make sure we know what we need to offer, and then collaborate with each other. You know, Allison in Manhattan, I know, sent me a possible chance to do a bakery here in South Florida. There's one in Brooklyn, and you know, to make dog biscuits and muffins and all kinds of stuff here in South Florida. So, you know, talk to each other and collaborate and see how we can share resources. And if someone's gonna, you know, moving down to Florida from New York, which is, I don't know why they're moving down, there are tons of people moving down from New York right now. You know, there's opportunities in different places. So collaboration is really important. Getting information from other, you know, the Special Olympics is really willing to share some information and provide, you know, stuff for the community and actually do things at your center.
Yeah,
so we have an event here with the Special Olympics almost every year.
for sure.
And work within your community. There are many places and businesses to partner and to be a part of. We're doing some really, I think, fantastic work with Dogtopia here, which is a dog daycare, and our participants are engaged there. So I think, you know, be willing to reach out and find partners and put the J out into the community by being an inclusive environment and show the community as well who you are.
And I think if you can adopt a special project to share, we're building, actually we'll be breaking ground after summer camp on the first fully accessible and inclusive playground in the city of San Diego here on our campus. Yes, we raised all the money, Liv, and super excited about it. But we've included poor Wendy's been on the phone with every organization that serves people with disabilities to include them in the thoughts and even at the design level of the playground. We're including everyone in this process with our families and the children with disabilities to give us their insights and thoughts about what they want to see and how they want this to participate. And then we've also included the Parks and Rec from the city of San Diego and their administrative piece for people with disabilities to be included in this process too, so that it really is a resource for the whole community. And I think people getting around a special project, it doesn't have to be as elaborate as a playground, but a special project is a nice way to convene multiple groups for potential collaboration.
And I think collaboration is the name of the game. We're all going to be together in a conference shortly, but the more we can work together across geographies, share ideas, collaborate, you know, the more we can do together. And there's just, as I don't have to tell any of you, there's just amazing people in this field working in JCCs, just absolutely fantastic people. I'm going to indulge myself and ask one more question of mine, which is, you know, as we're in various stages of, well, not here in Toronto, we're back in lockdown, but as most of us are in stages of reopening and visioning for the future, what is next for the three of you in a hopefully post-pandemic world in this area? What innovations or what focus do you have coming up?
So for us, you know, my primary goal is to get the program back to the JCC. And our hope is that at the end of the summer, that will happen. And shortly after that, we're excited to integrate with an organization in town called Arts for All, which is an organization that has served people with and without disabilities using arts as the platform. So we will be absorbing that program and then have a second location for our program permanently, which will effectively make us the largest provider of day program services in the state. So that's what the fall looks like, and hopefully the public health situation will cooperate with our timeline as well.
Very nice thought. So we're going to be working on a micro business. We have something called the Gib Shop, which we have items that are made by the kids and adults that are sold at different events that we have. So hopefully our events will come back where we can open the Gib Shop again. Gib is our name of our program. It's called Gibberim, which means heroes in Hebrew. So we shorten, everybody calls it Gib, and that knows about us. Also talking about that bakery that I talked about, our TV production studio. And then again, I think collaboratively, nationally, we're working on that hopefully Maccabi games to start and have that access games that we can kick off in San Diego at some point.
2023, it's happening, my friends. 2023,
There you go.
mark your calendars. So we are, as I mentioned, in the process of building our fully accessible and inclusive playground, which we will break ground for in the fall, and working on the development of our next phase of vocation and employment work through our food service operation. And we are also looking to expand upon the offerings with better integration into sports, fitness, and aquatics. So we're working specifically to do adaptive swim lessons, and then also work to creating a stronger bridge into our swim team program for children with disabilities and other recreational programs. And I think that we are just on the precipice of really building from very young age all the way through to what I would qualify as young adult services at the LFJCC, where mostly we've served people until they were school age, and we're looking now to take that to the next level. Building a total culture of inclusion is part of our 3-year strategic plan. And that is going to happen in a multitude of ways, some of which I just laid out the tactics of how some of that will happen.
Well, I'm excited for the future. I learn so much every time I sit with the three of you. I'm going to pass it back to Mackenzie just in the last few minutes here to give us some highlights of what we can expect together at the conference next week.
Oh my gosh, it feels silly to transition to logistics after a conversation like this, but I will. But I need to thank you so much for this incredible conversation. Our presenters panel have graciously agreed to be available going forward for questions, and we are just so grateful for that. In the full transparency mode, our JCC Association working team has a WhatsApp thread going, mainly for logistics and that type of thing, but we're sitting here just full of ideas. We feel like this recording needs to be part of your HR onboarding when you join a JCC or join JCC Association. This is just so important, and we are so grateful for partners like you. So thank you so much for a wonderful conversation, and to you, Liv, for facilitating it. A few announcements for ProCon as we move forward. Our full virtual conference kicks off at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Tuesday, April 27th. If you haven't registered, since this meeting took place separately through Zoom registration, please make sure you're registered for the general conference through SpotMe. If you've already registered, you should have received an email with a personal link to start building your own virtual agenda through the conference platform. That should have come from noreply@spotme.org. So you can search it if you haven't located that link, because it's really important that you get the one that was personally designed for you. Our 2 peer community sessions are on Tuesday, April 27th, beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then another one on Wednesday, April 28th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Our session on Tuesday will be in partnership with the Jewish Engagement Track, which is so exciting for us, breaking down some silos between 2 departments at the JCCs. And we will learn about the Crash Talk from an organization called Sfara, and learn about their foundational philosophy for human change. And then on Wednesday, we'll hear from our colleagues across the continent presenting on some of their signature programs. We'll have Liv, and we'll have representatives from the Posnack JCC as well, elaborating more on the GiveU program. And we'll also have time for question and answers, and of course to discuss as a group. I also recommend you consider some of our enrichment electives, and that can also be found within SpotMe. Those sessions are taking place on Wednesday and Thursday. Specifically, I don't want to be too prescriptive, but if you're looking for direction, specifically on Wednesday, there's a session called Effective Strategies to Ensure a Culture of Belonging for All Children. And that is led by Dr. Amanda Klug from the National Inclusion Project, and it's going to be a wonderful session. And then on Thursday, we also have one called Implementing the No Silence on Race Framework, one JCC's path towards institutional change. And that is going to be led also by Liv and her team from the Miles Nadal JCC. We look forward to seeing you again next week. I dropped my email address in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions at all. I'm here at any time. And thank you so much again, Scott, Todd, Betsy, and Liv for making this incredible conversation possible. We are so grateful. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.